Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars, don't let them end. Star Wars, if they should buy wars, please let me Star Wars.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Hey. Oh, I wish I had the full clip on it. I cut it off. There's more to that song. All right. So this is our Wicked Theory Rogue One special episode thing review. Hey, how you doing? How's it going?
Good.
I got my buddy Ed. That's the sound of my buddy Ed. And I got my brother Bob.
Hello.
And I'm Bill. What's going on? We went and saw Rogue One. I have no notes for this.
Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
A Star Wars war is born, kind of. I guess we should probably just kind of roll right into it.
Yeah,
you know
jump
what
right
I mean?
in.
And we'll kind of keep it loose up front. We're going to do a non-spoiler kind of section. You're going to raise your hand like we're in school?
Oh, okay. All right, we're doing a non-spoiler review first?
I would think we should go a little non-spoiler, give people like basic reactions kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then maybe our rating.
Yeah.
Our infamous American Taco-based rating.
The thing to know, this movie is set before Episode 4.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh. It's a side story?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
After 3, before 4?
Yes.
So this is like 3.5?
Sort of.
Conceivably?
It's more like 3.9.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I was
yeah.
going to say something similar. I was going to say closer to 3.75.
It ends about,
it
feels about like 5 minutes before the next movie starts.
Yeah.
But, all right, so let's hear from you, Ed. Let me, some general big takeaways from you in a general sense and a rating on it.
I really like this movie overall.
Okay, sure.
I think the first 2 acts are kind of shaky.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the characters I could take or leave.
Fair enough.
But I think the last third to half of this movie, it's pretty much an all-out war movie, and I mean, like, this is like The Longest Day. This is like We Were Soldiers.
Yeah.
This is like Thin Red Line, baby. This is
Fair enough.
I definitely agree with that. I had that
Yeah.
sensation about halfway through.
Yeah. And I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that you'd be allowed to make a genre movie like that
Inside of a
today.
Inside of a franchise.
Yeah.
No less.
Yeah. Instead of a big sci-fi franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not pulling any punches with this. They're
trying not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is 4 American tacos.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
This is solid 4.
Solid 4 tacos out of 5. Brother Bob.
I pretty much go right along with Ed on this one. It's I'm thinking it's more like a 3.5. I think the movie does everything it should do right.
Sure.
It's not super spectacular.
Okay. I can
You
see
know
that.
what I mean?
Sure.
It's a very solid movie. It does exactly what it's supposed to do.
Right.
And you're not going to walk away with from this movie feeling like you've missed out on anything or they really did anything wrong.
Yeah. Okay,
right?
sure.
It definitely feels more like a war movie. The Force kind of takes a back seat in this one, which is fine.
Yeah.
Which is perfectly fine because if there's too much of the Force going on in the movie, I think then it starts to feel more like the last movie.
Right. And this is something different. So
right.
to keep it different,
keep it different, and it's more about the military end of this whole rebellion. And for what it is, I think it's a very solid, very good movie. Go see it, and I think this is more important to the story of Star Wars and this whole storyline than the last one was. But I'm hoping that from that jump-off point, we're going to get more solid lead-in to a continuing story, a better continuing story.
Okay. All right, cool. What would what are you thinking? What kind of a number are you going to slap on that?
I'm thinking about 3.5.
Oh, you did say 3.5.
Yeah, a 3.5 American taco. So,
all right, cool.
Yeah.
That's strong. And I'm kind of right there with you guys too. I dug it. I do feel like it did not that it underwhelmed, but I know that the wow or the wonderment came from the last 20 minutes. It's 25 minutes. It's that last arc or.
I wouldn't even call that wonderment.
The actual getting of the plans.
Yeah.
And getting them on their way.
It's all those last minutes. It's those last handful of beats too. But I feel like that's where, like, my excitement came up. Like, if I was at another level of Star Wars fan, then sure, like, I'd be riding it a lot higher at that point. I'm just saying, just that's how it worked for me. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it, I got pulled deep into it in those last 25. Like, before that, I'm kind of like watching with a different eye. Like, I'm not pulled into it just yet. It's taking its time. It's setting everything up. That does pay off in that last in that last piece of the film. Like, so I agree with you guys. It's I kind of want to land right between you. I don't know. Do we do 3 and 8/16 and stuff like that? Did we do a 3.75?
Well, 3 and 8/16 would be 3.5.
See, I'm not good at math. That's my
What
thing.
you
I'm
want
not good at math.
What you want is 3 12/16 or 3 1/4, 3 3/4.
I don't even know if he's lying. I'm so bad with the math. But
you know what, Bill?
I'll give it a 4.
Have you ever had rules for this thing?
Well, here's what I'll say. I'm going to give it a 4. If I've given Star Wars 7, if I gave that a 4, then I have to give this a 4.5 because this just feels a better execution. Yeah. Like, for what I wanted to do, it lands everything, like Bob said before. And I feel like, if we have to compare to Star Wars 7 for a second, not that it should be really because it's 2 different stories, but like, 7, I walked out of 7 with some head scratchers. Whereas with this, I didn't. I'm not saying, hey, it's perfect and there's not stuff in there. If I take another watch through, there are a couple of things in the story that I feel like are very corny and stupid and just like 80s movie ridiculous that shouldn't be in there. We'll get to them later.
Right.
But, whatever.
Well, it was kind of an 80s era movie franchise. So
I tell you one thing. They locked the feel of that to me, too. That whole visual feel that it had during Revenge of the Jedi, the early chapters.
Right. Yeah. Well, they definitely had like all the military decorations,
all that
the
stuff.
Light colors,
the
red and the blue,
the
the big boxes,
the pack of gum.
That made me think Star Trek.
It reminded me of it just started reminding me of a pack of gum. I felt like I could take that off his chest and turn
giant
it out.
chiclets.
Yeah, and pop gum out of the foil on the other side.
Yeah.
The old way they used to do the chocolate bar, and where you snap it off into the big chunks.
Right, fair enough.
Big
It's like that.
chunks.
Sure.
Back when a chocolate bar was a quarter.
Or they were
pound
buttons.
or
Or they
half
reminded
pound
me of like buttons on a coffee machine or a blender. Like I felt like I just walk up to him and be like click, 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 click. But yeah, so that's where I'm lying with it. I have issues with a few things, but like I said, I didn't walk out of it like, I don't know. Because I feel like that's how I walked out of Star Wars 7. Like I walked out already with things that like I noticed. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't mind if like I don't notice them in the movie, then like I get home and like I read a review or an article and someone's like, yeah, but what about XYZ? And I'm like, oh yeah, that is pretty stupid. I didn't think of that. As long as I don't get fooled by it, as long as I don't notice them in the theater or on the first watch, then I'm kind of okay with that. When I notice shit and then it ruins my experience, that's what kind of like bums me out with a movie. Like, because it pulls me out. Like I was buying it until they did that really obviously kind of stupid or cliched or hackneyed thing, or someone read dialogue really weird. But so that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it at I'll just say 4. And I dug it. I want to watch it again. It was one of these things too where like it felt long but not too long, but I noticed the length.
Yeah, well,
but it didn't bother me.
I think that's because the story wasn't overly adrenaline-inducing. It wasn't overly action.
It kept this good rhythm where it was like, okay,
right. It was more of a storytelling pace than an action pace.
Fair enough.
Because it really wasn't about the action. It was about getting those plans.
Yeah.
I think if the movie would have made that more dramatic, almost like Argo.
Okay.
Where they were trying the tension that was built, getting people out of the place.
Yeah.
If they could build that kind of tension in this, then it would have been like a 4 or 4.5 for me.
Yeah, the tension really only comes in those end minutes.
At the very end minutes.
Yeah.
And that's when you see the one cameo.
Yeah.
That sets the whole thing in motion.
That's when it kicks into overdrive.
Right.
We'll get to that. Like the last 10 minutes.
Right.
Gets ramped up even more.
Right.
That's what kind of was cool. Was like you get to the end and then the end gets turned up a notch a little bit.
Right, yeah. Actually, because you think that the end comes about 10 minutes earlier than it does because you don't need to tell anything else at that point.
Yeah,
they have the plans. You could just end it right there.
Yeah, it's true. They just get on the ship,
but they go on and they tell you
some more.
Yeah, they show you those next steps of the plan getting to where we know it ultimately gets to.
True. Yeah. All right.
which they didn't really have to do because we know where it
Yeah,
gets to.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And that's why they kind of like burn through that a little quick, and all of a sudden the movie kind of speeds up a little bit because it's like dot 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 dot. It's over.
Right.
Like, and it's like, oh shit, that was great. And I think that's brilliant on their end to try and take advantage of that. Like, so you leave or you just walk off that like, fucking great, that tied up perfect. And that's the last thing you leave with this button of it all kind of syncing up with the original series.
And I'm glad. One thing I'm glad about with this movie is that they did not set it up for a sequel.
Well,
we
can get into
like,
that.
Yeah,
it's hard to do with this one.
Yeah, we're broaching spoiler territory.
Well, since
here.
we are broaching spoiler territory, I think that's usually when we should decide that that's going to be the time. Once it seems like, okay, we have to get into it.
Yeah.
So with that, Bob, check this out. We got a new sound clip here.
Okay.
Tell me what you think of this one.
Warning, spoilers ahead. You've been warned.
I think that's pretty clear, right?
Yeah, pretty clear.
That makes it pretty clear for people?
Yep.
I'm hoping. So, yeah, we're going to get all up in it. If you haven't seen it, stop now and go see it and come on back.
Yeah,
Come on back.
Really.
Come on
Go
back.
see it.
So, I don't know where to start, really, but I guess in the beginning, everybody had issues with there being no opening crawl in this particular movie.
But I get that.
But I get it, and I felt it not being there because the music cues were so used to this visual sequence that goes on. With Star Wars movie, it's like, the blue text, the galaxy far, far away, and then all of a sudden, different font, and a crazy angle, and that big note that just crashes in.
Yeah.
And so, it hits a couple of these, and it even does like a cold open, basically, before we see the actual logo. And, I think it worked for me, but it was definitely, I did kind of feel like a little, something. Kind of, I did notice it was gone. I did feel like it was missing, but did I need it? No, it's a weird thing. I'm so used to it. My programming is that it should be like this. I don't know. Did anybody else feel anything about the crawl
weird because
or anything?
the crawl is, that's a throwback to like 40s serials.
Yeah.
And this is a very uniquely modern movie that I think it wouldn't have fit with the type of story that they were telling here.
Yeah.
This is a much more mature Star Wars.
Fair enough.
I would not take your kids to see this.
There's that. Maybe we could have put that up front.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you got to watch the age on this. I think you got to wait till they're a mature 11 or 12. Depends on what you're letting them watch already.
Yeah, they earn that PG-13 rating.
Yeah. People don't come out of this. You know what I mean? Which is what makes it good. Which makes it interesting. Which makes making the sequel hard. Rogue One 2.
Yeah.
It's not 12.
It would have to be the funeral.
You know what I mean? It's the aftermath. It's like the memoriam for the planet.
Yeah. Plus, I think this does help distinguish the main saga from these offshoots.
Well, this one certainly does.
Because like, what are you gonna?
Can't.
How can you put an episode title on this?
Yeah, you really can't do anything with this other than let it be the standalone it is. If there's some peripheral character in this that we're missing survives, or we could do something else with it, okay. But it's just a continuation with that guy.
Yeah,
Like
I was telling Bill yesterday. I was thinking maybe Forrest Whitaker's character isn't really dead.
Bob was like, maybe he survived that somehow. Like, we just see a pull-away shot. Sure, the whole thing goes kafooey.
He's mostly robotic anyway.
But who's to say he doesn't have some kind of other bunker underground?
That's kind of where I get into issues with the film. Like I said, to me, that 4 rating I gave it,
sure,
that's really for the last act.
Yeah.
That third act, I think, and it's funny because it's the exact opposite of what every major blockbuster of the last 10 years has had. Every movie has third act problems.
Yeah.
This one, I think the third act is perfect. It's the
because
rest.
You know why? Because the third act was what they kind of already knew.
Yeah.
Third act is what is the movie. Third act is what you actually kind of are planning to see. So it's kind of like the easy setup.
Yeah.
We just kind of have to figure out the steps once we get to that final location. You know.
But I had issues with a lot of the characters in like Saw Gerrera, like Forrest Whitaker. There is nothing. Like everyone
overtly
talks about
special or something like that.
Well,
What
like
do you mean?
there's nothing that established him. Like evidently, this guy's supposed to be like a fallen Jedi. Yeah. And there's nothing in here that really established that.
Well, here's
like,
the thing with Star Wars. Star Wars is that's the problem with Star Wars too. Is that Star Wars does a lot of that, where it's like everything's kind of nebulous. It's like for years, Darth Vader was just the baddest motherfucker. And why again exactly? And it's like, just trust us.
Yeah.
He's scary. And it's like, no, I get it. The music, the costume. I'm fucking petrified as a kid.
Yeah.
But what did he do?
Yeah.
What's the list? And then you find out eventually they fill in the holes for you, or you hear from a friend or whatever. But like, they play it so thin in the movies. It's like, what does the Empire do to people? What is their issue? Why are they? Well, obviously they have evil looking costumes, but why are they the bad guys? What is the?
Yeah.
They just take over, and then everything's kind of okay.
But, and then in the first 3 movies, they're disguised as a political organization.
You know what I mean?
And
all I ever hear about
like,
is taxes and tariffs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like trade.
Yes, it ends up being a little dry.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But
and everything that's going on is actually behind the scenes stuff, and the drama is the political stuff.
But so they play nebulous with that, though.
Yeah,
like
but
that's,
all of those 3,
it's like, he's a rebel, but he's too rebellious for the rebellion, so he had to be outside.
Yeah, but like all of those spiritualist characters, those 3, like him, the blind guy, and then the other guy who was friends with the blind guy. The 2 Asian guys.
That might say something about how well we were able to retain the names of characters.
I have the names in front of me because I'm on the IMDb page.
That's fair enough.
But Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus.
All right.
Yeah.
Chirrut?
Yeah, 2 names you'll remember.
Chirrut
and Baze.
Chirrut. Okay, so Baze was cool just because he had a machine gun.
Okay.
I thought that weapon was interesting.
Right.
But the whole thing with Chirrut where he's blind, but because he believes in the Force, like, that's cool and interesting, but it didn't fit with this movie.
I felt like it. It felt kind of like, because he was singular in that.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels like.
It felt like they were trying to shoehorn the Force in here somehow.
Yeah, but and play loose with it, but it's not the Force.
Yeah.
He just believes in the Force enough. He's a disciple, doesn't have it, but he's keyed into it enough, I guess, that he just happens to be old school, martial arts master, blind guy that just happens to be able to, know what's going on around me anyway. Daredevil, like, Sixth Sense.
I thought it was because he knows he's one with the Force that he can kind of sense things.
That's what I kind of took it as. Like, he may not be super powerful like everybody else, but he's keyed into it enough where, like, he's picking it up. I don't know officially if he's supposed to be that way or how literal, but that's what I'm taking away from
it would have been
film,
nice if in that one scene where he's walking across the sand that the lasers actually, like, reflect off of him a little bit so that you can kind of see that there's something there,
Yeah.
that there's something really to this.
Yeah, maybe.
That should have been a nice breakaway moment.
They could have pushed him up a little bit more like that, like pushed him forward. He didn't bother me, but like his delivery sometimes did.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that was supposed to be like just kind of just stiltedness on purpose.
Well, a lot of times it was just kind of like comic relief, like.
It felt like that.
We need jokes here. We need
the
jokes.
Robot, the robot's not here.
And the droid in this one isn't that funny, so someone's got to pick up the slack.
I'm sorry. You're right. I said robot. You're right. Cardinal sin. But yeah, so let's talk about the robot. I mean, the droid.
K2SO.
K2SO. He's pretty good. He was fun. It was and not overbearing, not over annoying.
No, they were careful with that. He did not become a Jar Jar.
Yeah,
he was not C-3PO. Where he's.
I think in an attempt to make another C-3PO, you'd end up with a Jar Jar type of character that would just feel overdone.
Jar Jar didn't.
Work. Jar Jar was like level 12 on a scale of 10 anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
But even if they,
he was annoying on crack.
Well, also,
but I think if you go on a scale of 6 these days, it's like probably it may not land. It may not work. Keep it reserved. Play it smart, funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what they did here.
It was also weird that it seemed like they went out of their way to make this droid not lovable.
Is that why I like him so much?
Yeah.
Because he's a crank ass, basically?
Yeah.
He's just shy of flipping the bird.
Well, also, like his death.
Yeah.
Like, that's that.
Oh, my God, he dies?
Yeah.
Spoiler
alert.
We're in the spoiler section, bros.
I don't know if you heard.
Warning, spoilers ahead.
You've been warned.
So, once he went down, and this is another spoiler here, that's the point, like, oh, wait, they're going to kill everybody. Like, that's
a great thing that happened, too.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they did.
Yeah, and they kind of had to.
Yeah.
And they got they painted themselves in a corner. Basically, story wise, it was like, oh well, they're fucked.
Yeah,
They're
fucked. So that's it.
And it follows through with this whole idea of it being a display of like wartime. Like, and this constant thing of like casualties and losses. And it follows through with a line of dialogue from the other ones, doesn't it?
Yeah. In
Banton's
in A New Hope, when they go after the Death Star.
Isn't that a line? Yeah.
Well, no. Okay, it's that
many Bantons have died.
Many Bothans died to bring us.
Bothans.
That is the confusion here. Because
that's
these
not
are
about
not
this?
those Bothans.
Oh,
Those Bothans brought the plans for the Death Star and Return of the Jedi.
the other set.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's how they make the sequel. How did we get the second set?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh my God,
I hope not.
we need a Star Wars historian stat in the room. Like I don't know if we are official enough to get into certain areas of the lore anymore. But
Can someone in LucasArts give us a call?
But,
please?
but
someone straighten us out in the chat room or
but
something.
basically, like,
George, dial us.
like you. I mean, I don't think until now you could have had a movie where all of the characters died at the end that wasn't set in Japan or Germany in the 40s or Vietnam in the 60s.
You're right. Like this, just Hollywood in general doesn't do this.
Yeah.
Where you basically, just because you kill everybody off. Usually, studio Hollywood note is, well, just let them live anyway. Just because it's an upbeat end, not even that. Okay, the sequel possibilities and the continuation possibilities. Just because it's such a downbeat thing,
Right.
And it's like,
Well,
this movie finds its upbeat for the last moments, though.
Well, yeah, but in this movie, the franchise is so strong, you don't have to do that with these people.
The franchise is strong in this one.
Right. It is.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But
because it's not part of the main story.
Yeah.
You can just kill them off.
It works on a different
Yeah.
parameters.
And I think in this story, it really needs to kill them off
Yeah.
to keep it valid.
Yeah, that's the thing.
To
too.
give it that validity, that bring home that the magnitude of these people had to die to save other
because
people's
also
lives,
too
to save a planet.
until they really start dying. Well, actually, what gives me a hint is early on when Diego kills that one guy. And we're like, oh, shit. Like, what the fuck is that about? Granted, it's like down low, off camera, so little kids don't know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But, like, he kills that guy, and you're like, oh, this guy's kind of ruthless or whatever. Like, he'll do whatever he's got to do. And so I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a different kind of movie. Like, this is going to be a little different. That was, like, my first thing where I was like, okay. And then I didn't see anything to kind of, like, back that up again, I don't think, for a long time, until people started dying near the end.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, shit, right, people can die here. And I'm
Right.
like, all right, cool. Everybody? And it's like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I'm like, shit.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
hard
when
to
they
get
threw that grenade into the
into the bay of that
into
ship.
the bay of the the shuttle.
Yeah, when you realize where's the meds going and all those.
Yeah, that's something you weren't expecting.
Nah, definitely not. Definitely not.
I think I even heard you go, whoa.
Yeah, I think at some point, I got vocal. I will say that at some point I got up to leave to go to the bathroom. Ed, did I tell you the story about my injury? Bob missed it, but I
was too into the movie.
Fair enough.
Usually I get up and go to the bathroom during the movie, and I didn't this one.
So when I sat down, like, as soon as the movie started, I was like, oh, I got to pee. And then just about the halfway point, I kind of felt like, I know that this movie, I've heard that this movie gets greater as it goes along. So I got to go right now if I'm going to go. Yeah. And so I got up, it was too dark. And like when I got outside to the aisle and I look left and I look right, and I'm like, wait, because my eyes could adjust. And I'm like, oh, I got to go right. Didn't realize the step was right next to my foot. So I went right down, boom, and I slide kind of forward a little bit. So we were in the last row of that little section, so I go into the aisle behind our chairs off to the side, basically like just about landed in this woman's lap. And if it wasn't for like this rail that's kind of sitting there that I probably could have smashed my face on, like I grabbed that at the last second, but totally yanked my fucking kneecap up. Like it's still all jacked up. And sitting through the rest of the movie, I just had like this fucking lemon face on the whole time. I was just like, fuck. But I loved the movie. But the movie made the pain go away. But yeah, so I just had to kind of put that in, and that was my tragedy. But yeah, so I missed whatever that was. So there's a reason for me now to watch the movie again. But one of the things that really blew me away, I'm sure it's the thing everybody's talking about, though, is Darth Vader's appearance near the end. Like, sure, like he's in it, he's popping up a little bit.
But like that is
point.
the most Vader we've seen. Vader.
That's the
I think,
legend
ever.
Yeah,
that's the legend. Like like Jesus Christ, like want to see that.
Right.
Like, you know.
Yeah, I liked how he was in that gel bath or whatever it was.
Oh, that's right too. We didn't see a lot of him in it, but we saw enough. I thought we were going to get closer, really see the nastiness of him.
Well, I wanted them to get just close enough so we could see that it wasn't Hayden Christensen in there. We
didn't bring that kid back for anything.
No, actually, if it was Hayden Christensen there, maybe he should have been suffering for real.
You know, hey, if they got him,
I mean,
whatever. I guess.
This is for what you did to Darth Vader in the last movie.
I mean, he doesn't have real hands anymore, so we can't give the finger to George Lucas. Like,
but here's a good shot of Stumpy. Stumpy in his juice bath, in his bath of aloe vera,
with his pink, scarred up skin.
Oh, Freddy Krueger pizza
scarred skin.
Pizza skin. So he comes on the scene near the end. And as this thing is ramping up, as people are dying off,
audience all applaud.
He comes in. Our audience went nuts. We had a good crowd. I mean, it was full. It was Thursday.
Yeah. Guys were in the audience cheering before the movie started.
Once the lights went down, you got a little hooting and stuff. That's when you know you got a good crowd seeing it.
Yeah.
And then how I knew that I wasn't Star Wars enough is that like these guys were catching stuff that I wasn't catching.
Oh yeah.
Which sometimes was just verbal stuff that I guess kind of reflected or cued to the other movies in a way because you'd hear like just one or two random people.
Yeah.
That's like that's from the book. Like or something like I don't know where they're what they're picking up.
Well, yeah. I mean? Well, also when you have Jimmy Smith show up,
it's
like, if they're cheering for him, like that guy from those movies. Okay.
Well, there was a reaction. Yeah. Not exactly cheers. Yeah, people were like, okay.
Yeah, they mention he mentions a girl, a lady Jedi, in that movie, doesn't he? In the movie,
he definitely runs off to go, pull in Princess Leia. To let her know, so that's how she pops up at the end. I think that's the reference he makes. I'm not sure exactly what he says.
Yeah. Well, he basically tells her, "I'm going to go. We should contact Obi-Wan Kenobi." That's the Jedi that he's talking about. There was a Jedi during the Clone Wars who worked for me.
Yeah,
and
right.
And then like when she says, "Do you really trust that person with the plan?" He's like, "I would trust her with my life."
I would trust her.
Yeah, right. Because
he's
it's his daughter. It was adopted, but it's Organa.
Yeah.
Lady Organa.
And Mon Mothma looked a lot like Mon Mothma. And, like, that was the thing. Like, the actual Rebel Alliance leadership.
Yeah.
I didn't care for any of that.
Right.
I thought that was boring as sin.
But it always kind of was. And they're just kind of following suit with what's pre-established in a way at that time during the series.
I guess you had to have that in there just to show the references. But to me, those characters, like they're
thin, they're transparent, they're nobody really.
There were two.
The Mon Calamari were the most aggressive.
Yeah,
the fish people. You always got to watch the seafaring.
But there were two balding white guys who I kept mixing up with each other. One of them was a pilot at the end, and the other was the general.
Waldorf and Stadler.
Yeah.
Okay. But so let's talk about the CG.
Peter Cushing, man. He's back.
But wait a minute. But wait a minute.
I mean, he's been dead for 22 years.
So what did you tell me about your thought process when you saw it? What was going through your head, like in general, like right?
How?
Like, did it pull you out a little bit because you were trying to process it?
There are points like you could tell because you're like, okay, I know this person is CG because I know this actor is dead.
But this looks really good.
Is really good.
Like, I want to know how they did this.
It's not perfect, but damn, is it close?
Oh my god!
It's really close.
Yeah,
and
I think Leia at the end is a little much.
Yeah, and what's great about that is that's real short.
Phenomenal.
She looks great. To me, it just holds up. There's arguments online about whether or not she actually looks good. I think what probably happens is that if you freeze frame it probably and stare at it, then it's probably the same thing with Grand Moff Tarkin too.
Yeah.
Is that, did I say that right?
Yes.
Thank God. I was going to get scolded for that probably. But, since you only see like this much of her, it's hit or it's miss. It's the last second out of the movie. You know what I mean? It's 3 seconds if that. Like, you didn't think you were going to see her face, but all of a sudden, she turns around.
But Grand Moff Tarkin,
and that's another thing. And then you didn't think you were going to see more of him
No.
because of that, because he's dead and it's CG.
Yes.
But that motother keeps coming back.
Yeah, he's in
He
like,
pops up
he's in
like-
20, 30 minutes in the movie.
That's what I mean. I
Yeah.
think he was key grip. I think too this time.
I mean, what's funny is he's the boss of the main bad guy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he's like the thorn in his ass.
Yeah,
and he's he's there a lot. And I actually think what probably makes it easier for them. And this is total bullshit guessing on my part.
I like that setup. It's fair. It's honest.
But what might make it easier for them to do him
Yeah.
than her is because he has more of a grizzled face and older features.
Mm-hmm.
You can get into those details more.
Right.
Whereas something where you need soft lighting and smooth, silky skin,
It's
that's
maybe
lot
a harder
easy-
sell.
To look, it can look more cartoonish.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they're doing a lot of texture mapping. I think they're pulling from original imagery and photographs and stuff like that and rebuilding it. And
And they're definitely manipulating actual photographs to
that's what I'm saying.
to bring this to life, frame
You
by
know,
frame.
probably old raw footage and stuff like that, reels. And, what's amazing, though, too, is that that's the shit that, like, you plan out. Like,
Years ahead of
like
time.
that's the one thing we know we got to do. We got to have Leia at the end. Are we going to go for young Leia? Are we going to show her? We are. We're going to do CG? All right. Start up the fucking engines because we got to get going now.
And the thing that I thought was cool that, unless I missed it, you did not get an Alden Ehrenreich cameo as Han Solo.
Yeah, some people were wondering if that was going to pop up, the guy who was going to now play young Han. But I don't think he would be
Because
that young.
To have a CG Leia, but
At that age, at that point,
yeah,
because he's supposed to be playing,
he's supposed to be playing younger Han
but younger than we saw him in
Star Wars.
when,
Yes.
when we first saw him. Like, he's supposed to be playing early 20s Han Solo. So, I'm glad we didn't see him because then it would have felt like maybe we're trying a little too hard. I mean, who knows? This movie was selling everything, making almost everything work, on a surface level anyway. You know what I mean? So they might have pulled that off too. Who's to fucking say? I would have sold for a young Chewie. Random Wookiee. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's not. But you got to see R2-D2 and C-3PO. They made their cameo.
Yeah.
Short,
Suitably
sweet.
short.
Suitably sweet.
I mean, there was lip service to fans, but it wasn't over the top.
Right.
Yeah.
There was, right. I mean, it was already giving them the proper lip service by just being that story. Because that story is one of these things where it's like, it's
Right.
it's the,
And it gave them an opportunity to bring some strength to this weak idea of one shot can destroy the whole.
yeah, there's an aspect of it, how that was planned all along, that thing that everyone used to goof on for 30 years.
They still got to come up with the science for the tracking laser beam.
Yeah, that goes
That
straight,
goes straight and then goes
right
down.
angle down the hole.
But
Right,
at least the actual explosion of the whole place with one shot
Yeah.
makes some sense.
Right. That dad planned it all along. But hey, I know it's bullshit and it's retro refitting the story, but
You kind of have to do it because
Mads Mikkelsen sells me.
Yeah.
He could tell me anything. He could tell me my, my.
Hey man,
I was gonna make something
Hey
nasty.
man, he told a guy to cut his own face off once, and the guy did it.
And that wasn't even in Hannibal. That was just like on a Tuesday at his house up in the hills.
The fact that they did that on network fucking television.
I never saw the episode. How
guy-
much did they actually show? Like,
It was a lot.
did you see him like peeling it down and then the underside and stuff?
Well, no, you saw
The razor start.
It was from the back.
Ah.
You saw him doing, and then they showed at the front when after he was done. Which,
Oh, okay.
my
Oh,
God.
just a meaty, sinewy kind of thing.
Oh, I love that.
Anyway,
NBC.
moving on.
You slay me.
Back to Star Wars.
So yeah. So I think the thing you could take, the white guys in this were boring.
Yeah. Well, they're the bad guys, really. I mean, and that's fine. Whatever.
I still do want to know about how they have a Spanish accent in space.
And then and then we realized, well, they all sound British too. So it's like, how do they all look so human? Why? They're humans, but they're not. It's like, it's all this shit.
This is all supposed to be millions of years before humanity existed on Earth or something like that.
Yeah, well, who knew that we were such a popular
Gene pool?
gene pool or form, humanoid life form.
Bipedal
makeup.
humanoid form.
There you go. I was trying to think of that. the bipedal. So how about some things that maybe stuck out for you as down notes? Like I got one near the end. So,
I mean, I think I've sprinkled mine sort of. Basically, the first 2 acts, I think some of the characters, the spiritualist stuff was nice, but felt shoehorned in.
yeah, and not overly.
Yeah.
Like I feel like anything that I really have an issue with really didn't feel like it clunked me on the head either. How like sometimes things did, and especially in Star Wars 7, where it was like,
Yeah.
like some of the things that stuck out kind of hard for me coming out of that. And this one's like, I only got a few. And the one that really sticks out for me is just like, all right, it started to fall prey to the thing we do now in movies. And I mean, granted, it's a story mechanic thing, but it's all right. It's now it's the end of the movie, and it's another step. No, something went wrong. Another step. Oh no, now I got to do that. Another thing I got to do as we're trying to get one thing done.
Yeah.
All these micro steps pop up, and I guess to feel like a video game kind of thing, where it's like I have to now go do this. I got to run downstairs, flip the switch. I got to run back upstairs into the warehouse, find the key. I get the key. I go downstairs. I open the lock.
Yeah.
So fine, but at one point she has to flip a switch. Where is the switch, guys?
Out in like 5,000 feet above the planet.
It's on an extension. Like here's the radio antenna tower.
Yeah.
And we gotta put a switch somewhere on this tower that turns the tower on and off. So let's make a pedestal that just juts out on a fucking catwalk.
Right, 5,000 feet above the planet.
And outward 100 feet for no reason. Just none.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
The sister switch is outside in the woods.
Right.
On a
Down below,
panel.
on the ground, wherever.
Oh, it's the master comm switch. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
like,
nothing's indoors.
nothing's indoors, nothing's covered or protected by the elements either. But just that this one switch was like, oh, where can we have her the most exposed and still get shot at? But it won't damage the antenna, because if it damages the antenna, then our story goes left.
Yeah.
But we want her to get shot at. And I think this explains the scene in the commercial that never happened in the movie, where she runs out there and a TIE fighter comes up. I don't know if you remember that from the trailer, or from the commercials. It's in the trailers and the commercials. That, like, all of a sudden, like, she was going to be, like, face-to-face with one, and then, like, something was going to happen. And they obviously either changed gears or they cut around that and made it not happen. Because maybe it was, like, ridiculous and over the top. Because it kind of seems like it might have been. Like, how are you dodging that?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. One other thing is they get back. They get back to the Rebel Alliance.
yes.
They give their whole big spiel, and they have the giant political conference, and everyone says, no, we shouldn't do this. It's all over. And they decide, no, we're not going to do it. And Mon Mothma's like, fuck it, there's nothing I could do. And then,
what do you do?
just a whole platoon of people
Right.
decide, fuck them, we're going to go. And they just let them leave.
Well, that's the thing. It's a rebel
Yeah.
alliance. It's
Yeah.
not like really like a thing.
Yeah, so
it's like militias
if they were going to
kind of just all get
Yeah.
together.
If
We're
they-
lucky there's any structure.
well, it's like
We
if
kind of agree to help each other as long as we agree to
Yeah.
try to.
But
get
now
along.
we have
But, like,
they let us run around on the ships.
if they-
We can do whatever the fuck we want.
if they were going to ignore them anyway, then why the fuck do we have that scene?
I'm sure there's more of that in here too. where
Because
it's like,
because like when Mon Mothma finds out, oh yeah, those people who you told they went against you
And did it anyway.
and did it anyway, and now just put our entire fleet at risk. She smiles because she's
yeah.
happy.
Yeah, well, because she secretly wanted it, but you
Yeah.
know, it's like a thing where it's like, yeah, I get where you're coming from. There are probably a couple more angles where
I mean, you
it's
could
story
done
delay kind of tactics. Like we need a reason to kind of hang, to get caught up here.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
you could have made this a covert mission. You could have been like, no, we won't, but really we will.
Yeah.
Just kind of like that kind of thing.
Well, one of the trailers, one of the promotional stills, is her dressed in that fighter pilot TIE fighter suit.
Oh,
You know
yeah?
what I mean? And it looks like the impression anyway to me was given that maybe she's going to have to pretend to be one for a hot second and something like that. But no, it was not like really didn't have any focus on that either. I'm trying to think of some other things that really stood out. I feel like the music was all right. I'm glad it wasn't like overly Star Wars. I know Giacomo came in late on this to make the music for it, and some people kind of like tipping it to that, like, it's because they rushed it for the guy and all this fucking shit. But
he did a smart thing, because what he ended up doing, this is what I noticed, is he went to a main section of familiar music
sure,
from the franchise, and he looked at an uncommon section, something that's not instantly familiar
Right.
to everybody. So that wasn't the first part of the riff, because that's what we all know, right?
Right.
So now he's looking at more of the back end, let's call it,
Right.
of the riff. And he says, okay, I'm going to take this section, and I'm going to work with that, and I'm going to come up with a new riff.
Right.
Okay? So that's basically what he did.
Yeah. And it's smart
Right?
and it's sharp.
So, yeah, it's smart, because it sounds slightly familiar,
Right.
but not overly familiar,
Right.
and it still has that Star Wars feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
think it was fine.
think for a lot of people, like they don't realize it, but what that means is that like if they're not digging that or they're not feeling it Star Warsy enough, then you kind of come in with some over expectations of what's going to happen.
I think those are the people that really want to hear da, 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 da.
you know, and they want to
You
hear
know?
all that
You
classic
got to
stuff.
remember, this is a side story. So in a side story, you can have side music
Yeah.
and still not offend the main
It should always feel like it's in the world,
franchise.
and it does.
Just just a reminder, because I'm seeing someone new in the chat. We are
Sure.
in the middle of a spoiler-heavy discussion of Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. So if you have not seen the movie yet, you may want to,
It's up to you.
you're staying at your own risk. But
At your own
we
risk.
enjoy the listeners.
Enjoy. So yeah. So at this, it's so. Well, where did we hit? Where did we not hit? It really is a question.
I
here.
mean, the one thing I'm trying to think that we didn't really hit was the middle section. of
What do you mean? The
movie.
part where I kind of ran out to the bathroom and I'm not sure what happened?
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
here's the thing. In the beginning. All right. So this is a little ridiculous, but, it's a nitpick, but it's a little ridiculous. This was stupid. Pull me out of it right away. All right. So what's the name of the Grand Poobah there that's coming down to Mad Mikkelsen's place to come get him?
Ben Mendelsohn.
So
yeah,
his character, I forget his name.
Orson Krennic. Director
So
Krennic.
Krennic lands the
Yeah,
ship a
that
fucking quarter mile away from the guy's house on a rainy, mushy day. We're going to walk and give you plenty of time to run and hide. Was that supposed to build tension? I don't even get it. Like, why wouldn't you land, I don't know, 30 feet away from his little cubicle hovel thing?
Well, because we need a tracking shot. We need a wide shot. That's the thing. We need a wide shot.
Yeah, we're going to have these really panoramic kind of pullback,
so we could take in the atmosphere.
Look how black the dirt is, how dark the soil, and how wet, how very Seattle of it all.
Were you disappointed with his character?
I feel like we didn't get enough. I thought we were going to get something that kind of was almost going to feel like, what's his name in Inglourious Bastards? Like we were going to get the Star Wars version
Of Hans Landa?
Of Hans Landa. And like, like we didn't get the conversation where he comes in and he says, could I, perhaps I'll have a glass of your delicious force juice or something like that, or a glass of milk. If you have milk, I'll drink some milk. Is there any Jedis under the floorboards? I just want to know, because if they are, I will find them. They call me the Force Hunter. So there's that. But no, that didn't happen.
What's weird is like you thought that he was going to be this imposing, really scary villain, and that ended up being Peter Cushing.
Because he was dead. Because he wasn't real. Because he was back from the dead.
Yeah.
So all I know is that like anything goes at this point now.
Yep.
If they're gonna do that
Yeah.
at that level with Cushing,
Yeah.
Grand Molotov cocktail.
Yes. Grand Moff Tarkin.
that's
or Governor Tarkin, as he's referred to.
Governor, Grand Governor, whatever your clan rally fucking insists you be called.
Let's just call him middle management and be done with it.
Fair enough. High middle management. I don't know. It just goes to show you that like anything now is on the table in a sense of just because you saw Obi-Wan Kenobi at some point in the franchise look a certain way at a certain age. Alec Guinness is dead. It might seem sacrilegious, but we might see him one day in some kind of crazy thing brought back from the dead.
That would be a huge FU to Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's timeline-wise that we'd have to use old school, old man Obi.
Yeah.
Old man Obi-Wan.
Just use Ewan and make him look like...
Age him up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, that's basically what you did for
Make him
episodes.
look like Alec Guinness. I mean, you can make anybody look like anybody these days.
I mean, that's basically what they did
Well, that's
for...
what I'm saying. You don't even need somebody to stand there. Obviously,
Just substitute his voice and then just be okay with that.
There you go.
You know?
There you go.
It's like a middle ground.
Okay, so Palmer's starting to be really annoying right now.
Why?
He wants us to read those 2 emails.
We're
that
going to
we
get
talked-
to them.
Yeah, we're going to get to them.
Yeah, we're going to get to them.
You
I'm
know.
glad he reminded me, though. I mean, it's nice. It's nice. Effort counts for something.
That's a backhanded way of saying, I want to leave, so do my email now.
He's producer minded. These are the things that if he was in the studio, he would have
Yeah.
slipped me a piece of paper hey, don't forget. That's
and
all.
there is going to be an after show. It may be 10 or 15 minutes,
It
but
might be 22 seconds.
yes,
Like who
but
knows?
there will be an after show.
Of some type. We will wrap this up very soon. We will start the after show. We might finish it up off air. We've only got 27 minutes left of air time on Mixler for today. So anybody who wants to, ever check that out, we should probably promote the regular stuff too real quick before we get to those emails. Yeah. So if people want to check us out live on Saturdays on Mixler, mixlr.com/wicked-theory. That's our main show. We do it live every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you could email us at podcast@wickedtheory.com. And what else can I tell new people if they happen to be listening? At anything? Patreon. Support us on Patreon. If you're digging what we do, we're on there. Just find Wicked Theory.
Yeah, we need the money.
We could use a couple of pennies. We could use some support.
Guitars need strings.
$1 will get you after shows that we're talking about that they air live, but they don't go out to the podcast regular feed. So if there's something there that maybe that's a thing to entice a buck out of you.
Oh, wait. Wesley wants to know, how do we listen to the after show if it goes longer than the 3 hours?
You can only listen to it if you have the Patreon. Sadly enough, you know what I mean. Like there was an idea to only do it as a Patreon, just kind of cut the mics on the Mixler and then do it. But the idea is that if we have the time, we do it after show.
Yeah.
That was originally how it started. So it kind of grandfathers that idea in. So it's like whatever we get, we get. If you happen to be on the Patreon, you'll hear it in full, which you are, Wesley. So it was nice of you to ask so that other people could find out that information. I like how you made us share it on the side like that.
See, that's producing.
You know what I mean? Oh, is that what it is? That's how you're gonna jam Palmer?
I think the after show we should let them know it normally is going to be longer than what this one's going to be, probably.
Yeah.
But
we try to do it.
It's just supposed to be something extra. So
yeah,
the idea is it is what it is when it's done.
Yeah, it's loose. It's not rigidly formatted in any way. Yeah. Segments always kind of change. But back to this.
Back to Rogue One.
A
Star Wars story.
Star Wars. All right, so
Pretty good Star Wars story.
So we did have 2 emails.
Okay.
For people who may not have heard it on our regular episode this week,
Yes.
our friend James, who writes in emails and follows us over on Twitter, he sent in his prediction before he saw it of
Which was Fire and Brimstone.
well,
was-
yeah, sure, okay, but it was he wasn't feeling it. Wasn't buying it necessarily.
Sky is falling, baby.
Was kind of thinking, it could be a lot of bluster, a lot of up talk.
Dogs and cats
It
living
can't-
together.
Even I'll have to admit and agree with that sentiment that I didn't think it could be that good.
Mass hysteria.
I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. I'll say that. All right, so after taking that into consideration, his email following that reads as such. So I went and saw it last night. I heard it was really good, excellent, awesome, and every other adjectives along those lines. I remembered those same things being said about the last one, and my disappointment after seeing it, realizing it was a reboot of the original and still the first in the series in my mind. So what did I think? I arrived at the 10:55 p.m. show just in time to miss all the previews. Once I know this town better, I'll be able to time that better. Forgive me. But my wife and I settled into our seats and put on our 3D glasses, and I became interested. It was slightly slow to start, not much of a growing up montage, thankfully. I agree with him on that. We didn't have this whole thing where it's like, let's follow this kid for a quick rundown of what her life was like. And then the action starts. This is a true prequel! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. This is a great movie, all capitals. The story is well done. There are some spots, but not many that I can remember, and not worth complaining about because the movie was great. The ending was perfect, and all the random Easter eggs of other characters from the other movies was unexpected and awesome to see. They brought back my love of droids. That soccer ball from the last movie sucked. The droid in this movie is awesome. The perfect blending of my two favorite sci-fi droids, which was R2-D2 and Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I think is kind of a fair
assessment.
Fair assessment.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
I liked how the Death Star was used without being overused, and the absolute fear expressed by the rebels when Vader appeared. If they keep the quality of storytelling going with the rest of the movies, instead of the 90s Batman movie feeling that I've experienced from the previous four, I can't wait to see the Han Solo movie, and hopefully many others that they'll come out with. You've gotten my hopes up now. Please, Disney, don't fuck this up. I gotta agree with him on a lot of these points here, if not all of them.
Yeah, please, Disney, don't fuck it up.
Yeah, and I get what he's saying too. How the main series really does kind of have obviously not necessarily this 90s Batman thing, but this very kind of family-friendly safeness to it that just isn't at play here.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, sure. But they kind of revel in it almost. Like that, I don't know. It's a weird thing to kind of say, but they don't try to fool you that it's not that.
Yeah.
Like they lean into it just a little bit,
I mean, you could say for Star Wars pictures, this is going to be similar to what the Searchers did for Westerns in the 50s.
Wow.
Kind of like really revisionist, modern, mature takes.
Well, I will say this, that if I'm understanding what the conversation is correctly, that the idea here is that, this one was a more of a war action flick reminiscent of Dirty Dozen and this kind of thing. That was kind of like the idea or approach going into it. And, the Han Solo thing will probably end up feeling more like a Western kind of swashbuckly heist kind of a thing. So these side projects, I think the idea is to try to follow, not necessarily directly, maybe that was the catalyst, but like the Marvel thing where it's like, all right, each of these movies should kind of maybe fit a genre a little bit atop it. Like obviously Doctor Strange is a magic movie, and Ant-Man ended up being more of a family-friendly superhero adventure thing. You know what I mean?
Winter Soldier's a political thriller.
Right, this kind of thing. So, it'd be interesting to see what happens after the Han movie because, what else is there in Star Wars? And granted, that's my Star Wars ignorance. Like, I don't know what you go to after that. You know what I mean? In a sense. Like what comes after that? Because the fear is that they're going to try and turn Han into a
Captain America.
Well, a trilogy of its own.
To be a franchise.
Captain Kirk.
Well, that too. Like this ongoing thing where we can just have this area of time and all this shit to kind of go over, and maybe it could work.
As long as he doesn't end up having sex with green women.
Well, there you go. There's that. I mean, if the Marvel comic has established that he has a wife, that he married a woman, and so she pops up in the current runs of the Marvel comic, which is all continuity now and official.
See, I would like to see them do like a TV version, do something like the Young Han Solo Chronicles.
Young Han Solo Chronicles, where he's even younger than he's going to be in this movie.
Well,
where he's
like 14.
Let's go younger. Let's go like 10, where he's basically like Encyclopedia Brown, but like on a spaceship. And he's just annoying. I want him to be annoying.
Kind of like a Nancy Drew kind of.
Yeah, but more of like he's cocky even then. But because he's a kid, he's got he's more of a jerk.
Yeah. But you know what? Those are some of my favorite Indiana Jones stories.
Fair enough. You're right, because they have the adventure sense is, I think, maybe a little more pure. Yeah. For whatever reason.
Yeah, well, also, they really made it a point to play with the history to insert him.
Well, that's true,
he's
too.
In World War I, he meets Pancho Villa,
Yeah, well, it's the Forrest Gump effect, in a sense. Well, they did it first, but you know what I mean? Where it's like, well, we can play with the years here, so let's have him meet famous people, and all of a sudden it's a Bill and Ted adventure. So we have an email in here also. James, thank you for the email, by the way. That was a great email, and hugs and kisses to you, yours, and I hope your internet signal is strong, my friend. So we do have one from Agent Palmer, who, oddly enough, maybe that's why he was all like, yo, get to the emails. Maybe. How come you guys didn't read the emails yet? So
I get the feeling that Agent Palmer gets this sensation of kind of being on the show peripherally with these emails, and it's like he's got.
It's like an extension of.
Well, it's the way he gets to feel like he's on the show.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's why not?
And I feel like the thing that upsets him most is when we're talking about him instead of doing the show.
Right. That's the conflict within him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the producer part of him was like, just move on. Don't. And then the other part of him was like, yeah, get to my thing.
Oh, Thomas K wants to know why Bob's not playing the guitar right now.
We put it to the side. We put it to the side. You know what I mean? And
The after show time is usually when it goes away.
yeah,
It's a little much to have on your lap for 3 hours.
yeah, it's quite the block of time. So Palmer's email reads, do you think with all the nods to both the prequels and the original trilogy that you'll get the most mileage from Rogue One watching it in the order in which it was released or where it falls in the storyline?
I mean, I don't really know. I guess they couldn't hurt. Although it might. But
Yeah, I think maybe it's a thing where I don't know. I think it's so removed in the way that they put this together. Like I could see where just on paper you'd be like, no, put it at first. But I think it stands alone enough where you can do it at any point, really. Because once you've watched, or at least once you've watched those 3 that reference it, basically, one of them, then you can probably at your leisure throw it into the mix, whatever you want to, really. But if you're going to be watching them in general just to go through the series, then I guess you automatically just slop it in the middle.
Well, I would think that if you're going to be watching a marathon, you watch them more. You're going to want to watch them more or less in order, obviously. So you would go 1, 2, 3. Normally, you would go to 4, which is A New Hope. But at this one, now you have to insert right before that.
You know what? And I would do it too. I would insert it in. You know why? Because with how this movie ends and how they do this ramp up.
Yeah, it is a lead-in.
You know, exactly. Like when you actually see Vader come in like a sick fuck badass, like we've always wanted him to be the threat.
And the scenery looks like it is that exact same ship
And if I was
that
going
we
to
see in A New Hope in the beginning.
like if I had a kid and I was going to show my kid this series for the first time, I think maybe that's what I would do anyway.
Well,
because I feel like maybe Vader feels more of a threat. Even if you don't see him do that badass shit again for 3 freaking movies, you know, it makes the mythos of the fear of him feel more real.
Yeah, that much more palatable. Palpable. That's the word.
Palpable.
couple things.
Yeah, okay.
First off, because of the violence and tone of this movie,
Right.
I don't really know if I would show this to young kids.
It depends on age. Fair enough. Fair enough. Good call.
You know, I think maybe showing this to an adult who hasn't experienced Star Wars before.
You know, you figure out how old your
This-
kid is
yeah.
and say, look, I'll show you one movie a year
Yeah.
because you're like a little immature child now, so you can handle the very first one of the series, which is about a kid in a in a go-kart for most of the movie.
Oh, you're talking about the very first one.
Well, the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, the Phantom Menace.
Right. Which is made just for kids. Like,
Yeah,
and I'll start them slow and small. And I'd be like, and the rest of
Yeah.
them are locked in the case, and you just no.
But also, I think having seen 4 and 5 and 6 before this
As I was going to say, by the time the
does-
kid gets to the age, like
does add a lot into it because I think you're able to appreciate it a lot more, and you also have that
Yeah,
that
okay.
Paul Harvey effect at the end.
what?
You know,
Go on.
no, where all of a sudden you see her at the end, and then all of a sudden you realize what's happening. You go, and now you know the rest of the story.
Okay, I kind of get it. Yeah.
You know, I think it because if you haven't seen those movies before, that ending doesn't really make sense.
All right, fair
And
enough.
then when you see her at the end, you're like, oh, that's where this is going. I think that has a lot more power. You appreciate it more.
No, fair enough. I feel like there's probably argument for both
Well,
for both ways in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think the best
Yeah.
thing to do then to solve this argument is to sit down and watch this movie and A New Hope back to back.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. This way you're just carrying the story through,
Yeah.
and there's no issue.
Yeah. Now the real hope, the real thing to worry about is when are we going to get those theatrical versions of 4, 5, and 6 back, where we can avoid these special editions that we've had to.
Well, who knows
You're
now?
talking about
It's
the
the-
original.
Yeah, I want to see
Theatrical
the movie that
I
people
think those
saw.
are gone.
Well, this is a
They have
big.
to exist somewhere.
Well, this is a big.
It might
bone
be
of
in George
contention.
Lucas's basement.
No, Lucas owns them, and there was. I remember hearing something years ago about after the first time that he redid them, that the originals may have gotten lost or mixed up with re-edited stuff,
like
and now they don't know what's what.
because Lucasfilm
Something like that. I don't
George
know.
tweaked with it so much we
Yeah.
lost track.
Yeah, well, no, Lucasfilm stance before the Disney merger or
Yeah.
before the Disney buyout was that these are the definitive versions of my movies. Those,
Right,
those
sure.
previous versions were inferior. and
Right.
there's no reason
We've
for me
cleaned
to release
them up.
anymore.
We've fixed the special
yeah,
effects.
but
We've done all this stuff.
But there
Yeah,
was
yeah,
an
yeah.
implication that the original negatives were tampered with or destroyed, which is unconscionable. Especially since
Just as a film. Just as a film.
Yeah, especially since the first Star Wars is in the National Film Registry.
Yeah.
And is meant to be preserved for all time.
Well, it's on a laser disc. You think it's going somewhere, man? Well, that's the thing
But-
too.
but
They
the
can
fact
rip,
that-
they can
yeah.
rip from some 1982
But I-
re-release.
I-
of, you know,
yeah, I
they
can't-
It will never be super quality as
Yeah.
ripping from the original
But
film.
I
But
cannot believe that that the fact that Disney owns that now, that they haven't like cracked that open and pulled it out yet.
when the last gasps of hard media are finally there, you'll see them probably do something with all this shit. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney's like, oh wait, fuck it.
I don't know. Now that we're asking that question, I'm kind of thinking that they'll do it soon. They may have. They want to establish themselves as the people who are making Star Wars movies now, and then they're going to do the release. You know?
They might- you know
so they
what?
may want to do so many movies before
might
they
wanna
release the originals again in their original form.
I was gonna say they might want to do theatrical re-releases. That might be why they're saving, because Disney likes to do that crap too. Well, this hasn't been out. We haven't
Around
released
the
it for a
holidays,
long
they'll do
time.
Cinderella, stuff like that.
You know what I mean? So like we're gonna wait till some anniversaries down the pike.
well, it's funny because
Because how old are these movies now? You know what I mean? There has to be a
Like,
big.
50 years.
next
You know
year's
what I
the
mean?
40,
40.
next year's the 40th anniversary.
I'm surprised we're not already hearing about like what's going to go on for that.
Well,
'Cause
'cause-
you know Disney's going to have a big old.
Because Lucas started doing a theatrical release in 3D, but he only got around to Episode 1, and then after Disney bought it out, they decided fuck it.
Well, that's why he sold it. He was like, "Oh, this is a lot of work. I'm too old for this shit. Look at my giblet."
He wanted to buy more of California.
Well, you know, hey, you can never have enough. Someone's got to protect the land.
It's just going to end up in the ocean.
That's true. Like any day now. So no Ewoks.
Nope.
Was there a Chewbaccaite? A
No,
Chewbaccasaur?
No Wookiees.
No Wookiees.
No Wookiees.
No
no
Wookiees.
Jedi.
No Wookiees. No Jedis. No, there were plenty of Jedis. Well, not really. We had a Jedi Light.
Yeah, pseudo Jedi.
Nearly Jedi.
Of course,
Yeah.
a pseudo Jedi had to be basically a Buddhist monk.
You know, I want to say too.
Blind
You know, what's her name's mom? The mom basically just screwed this whole thing up in the first 10 minutes. You know what I mean? We were almost done. We were out of talking about the story, but she really ruins it all in the first 10 minutes. Like he's got it under control, and she's like, "No, I want to shoot somebody. I want to."
Yeah.
Stupid
person. You know what I mean? It just, you know. And then the kid runs away. Our buddy Dominic, you know, made a great point to me at work or on Twitter on a DM or something, and he was like, "You know what? Not for nothing. I thought the kid had enough room in there for 2 more people." And I was like, maybe. It's like, it looked dark. I don't know how cramped, but he's like, no, I think there was room for 2 more people in there. Like that kid, it was probably built for all 3 of them. And he's probably right. Yeah, so.
Well, I think originally the mother and the daughter were told to go there.
Well, yeah.
And she just
Yeah.
told the daughter to go because she
Correct.
wasn't going to listen.
Sure enough.
She got into a jam where she wanted to help hubby out.
Yeah.
Stupid. So that's what we thought of Rogue One.
So that's our review of Rogue One.
Overall, I thought very good.
And, so
I
we gave
just
it.
better not see a sequel.
Yeah, we gave it great reviews all around. We really dug it. Every movie's got a couple of bones. So if you think that we're tearing it to shreds or something
Yeah.
earlier, like seriously, like no, we liked it.
It's a solid movie.
We
And
liked it.
just to repeat it, I gave it a 4, Bill gave it a 4, Bob gave it a 3.5.
There you go. You know, it's definitely a recommend.
Yeah.
And you know, even if you've kind of already had some spoiler stuff and you've made up your mind and you're like, meh, go see it. Just go see it.
Just go see it.
Just go see it. Because everything that it's supposed to do, it does.
Yeah.
And it does it well.
Right.
So even if it doesn't amaze you, at the very least,
Right. It's a very solid.
it serves its purpose, man.
Right,
And
exactly.
you wouldn't. I don't know. I'll be surprised if they can maintain this kind of
But it's
perfect
it's,
landing like this
yeah,
movie had.
It's really intense. It's really ballsy. That ending is
It's Murder City at the end.
It's the way it ends the way it had to end.
Yes.
It's the way it ends the way it should have ended.
Yes.
And
But the fact
the
that
smart thing in doing this, when the ending it this way, was just that.
Yeah, and
Doing any less would be failure.
and the fact that executives let them use that script and get to that and didn't make them reshoot it where everyone survived.
Yeah,
that is and that movie is what we saw. I think that's a minor miracle.
Yes, I agree. Like I can only imagine what they changed or cut, but
Yeah, I think that part of the movie was the risk and payoff that they were waiting for and hoping for.
yeah, sure.
So how it was going to pay off was the big deal for them, and in testing, everyone was okay with it. So they just like, great, no, don't even bother.
Yeah, I wonder if if this is going to now outdo 7 as far as word of mouth. I don't know if it's as divisive for people as Star Wars Episode 7 was for people.
Well, I think it'll get.
I think expectations
more positive.
I think because I think expectations were lower for this. Like you knew what you were kind of gonna get,
Right.
and it was looking to line up in all the previews.
Also,
Whereas with Episode 7, it was like I don't know what I'm getting, and it's got to hit a lot of marks for me.
Well, I think Episode 7 was a really good movie, and I think there was a great audience reaction. I think there are some people who are outspoken about it.
Yeah,
but I think overall, I think this is a better movie than Force Awakens.
Yeah,
So-
I think so because it takes the chances it does in the last act.
yeah.
And the last act that they give us, it's the movie that it is.
Yeah. That's
that's what makes it better.
Yeah. It's a shame that like a lot of it, like it's kind of like you're kind of saying, is like a lot of the stuff that makes it so the payoffs are all in that last act. You know what I mean? Which is great
Right.
because it leaves you ramped up for all the coming out of it and all that. I don't know if the beginning stuff could have been any tighter, really, but it does kind of feel like it's trying to get somewhere and it doesn't get there very quick.
Right. We got to remember too, when we're watching this movie, we know where it's got to go.
Yeah.
So we can kind of when we're presented with something,
Yeah.
then we can kind of know where it's got to lead.
Yeah.
So there's no huge surprises here.
Well, here's the thing, like,
But in spite of that weakness, it makes a solid movie.
right. That's what I was going to say.
Right.
Yeah, that despite that, like we think we know where this is going to go, it's going to actually do that.
Right.
It still has to entertain us on the way there,
Right.
and it does that. It still
Right.
manages to surprise us to a degree.
It just gives us the story that we need, and gives us the ending that we should get.
It's like Batman. It's the story we need and the ending we deserve.
Yeah,
It's Gotham.
it's the ending A New Hope deserves.
Yeah, well, it's the kind of thing that this
Right.
franchise deserves because
Yeah.
it gets beat up. I think a little bit.
The idea that it's a war gets lost in the Jedi stuff sometimes.
Well, that's what it is too. It's like nothing really kind of reaffirms it greatly, and I don't know that we really will get more reaffirmation. But hey, man, it's a great movie. Go check it out if you haven't seen it already. Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story about a Rogue One ship. There will be no Rogue 2.
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Yeah, maybe we should make a game or something about for listeners. What would the premise be of Rogue 2?
Well, if you want to send an email to our show, podcast@wickedtheory.com, send us your Rogue 2 predictions. What would be a good Rogue 2? Be as funny or as silly as you want.
Right.
Be as serious as you want. We'll read some of those out.
Kind of like what we did with our last segment we were doing in the last few weeks.
Yeah, pitch versus pitch.
Pitch versus pitch.
Yeah, it's one
give
of
us
these.
give us a pitch for Rogue 2 and let us see what you would do.
Tell us what.
How would you make it? How would you make a sequel to this movie?
Yeah, considering no rewriting what's already happened.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't say
Yeah.
this character's not dead anymore.
Right.
Or there was a clone.
Everyone who seems to be dead at the end of this movie is
It's
dead.
Saul Guerrero too. Like even though we didn't see it,
Forrest Whitaker, even though personally I think he might not be dead in another movie
fair enough.
for another movie, but
Because he's a character who was actually on one of the animated shows as a younger person, and then here he is all grown up. So it's actually there is a character trajectory there. But anyway, we're running out of time, so let's wrap it up. If anybody wants to get to know us better, they can find us on all of your favorite podcast places, wherever podcasts give it away for free.
Bookface.
There you go too. Bookface, Twitter. No, but you can find the show at wickedtheory.com. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, all these kinds of different apps. Just take a search for us, and you can find us. You can find the show. You can find.
If you've got a podcast app on your smartphone, you can get us, basically.
Chances are. You really can't miss it. So there you go.
Don't forget Mixler.
And then don't forget listening to us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mixler, mixlr.com/wicked-theory. And then send an email to podcast@wickedtheory.com if you want to. Ed, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Edward O'Hare TBD.
Bob, how about you?
At Bob WTPC.
Whoa. You can find me. I'm at wickedtheory.com. At Wicked Theory on Twitter. And that's the official show account, too. So there's that. Thanks for listening. Check us out. Have some good times. Listen to a few episodes. Take the challenge. Listen in. And if you like us, linger longer. There's a reference from the Grease Man. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got for you guys. That's all I got for the show.
We outie?
We outie. And I will play a sound clip that we play every week to close us out.